Thank you so much for watching. All right, the final group before we go to the polls. Hardgrave's coming up a little bit later, front page as well, so it's not the end of the Sky News coverage tonight. Make sure you stick around. None other than Joe Hildebrand, spokesperson for Anthony Albanese, and occasionally works at the Telegraph. Great man.
I like to divide my time.
Correct. And, chest hair and all. Matt Canavan, who's up for re-election tomorrow in the Senate out of Queensland.
Hey.
Lad, hello. All right, so... Joe, give me the short spiel of why you are absolutely dead certain that we'll be dancing to DJ Albo for the next 3 years.
It's just the numbers. It's the public numbers. It's the fact that Newspoll hasn't really moved an inch over the 5-6 weeks of the campaign, except to go up to 54 for a couple of weeks and then back down to 53. That is more than Kevin Rudd got in 2007 in what we call the Rudd slide. There are simply just too many seats that can and will fall, and then so many others that are going to, that there will be surprises. So
do you have any fear of Labor losing anything anywhere?
The worst case scenario I have heard from my most pessimistic Labor source is 76.
Okay.
So we're looking at Pearce and Swan, of course, in WA. Maybe Hasluck. It's a coin toss. Definitely Boothby. Maybe Sturt. Potentially. I mean,
if it's a wave, this is what comes with it.
That's right. But if it's on, it's on.
What's this we, Joe?
I know.
I'm quoting.
24 hours to go. He's putting it all on black.
I've already blown my cover.
Red, I should say.
Don't worry, Matt. You get to do the reverse in a second.
Brisbane and Ryan. Ryan may go to the Greens. Longman, I don't think will shift from what I hear. Reid gone. Bennelong, obviously. We've seen that massive turnaround there. If Bennelong swings because the Chinese community doesn't like the tough talk on China, then you're getting Chisholm, maybe even Deakin. Okay. There's Higgins, which I know is weird, but it's a kind of tealy seat that might go Labor's way. I think both Bass and Braddon, definitely Braddon, and I don't see why Bass wouldn't fall, even though Lambie is preferencing the Libs. Yeah. I could go on, but there are too many things that would all have to go against Labor.
Okay.
And for the coalition.
I want to get a second question.
Sorry.
Matt, Matt, why is he wrong?
Why he's wrong because he's missing one important ingredient there, and that's Labor's primary vote. Joe just glossed over that there. He's focused on the 2PP, but that's sort of an imaginary number. Newspoll tonight shows that Labor's primary vote's only 36%. That would be a historic record for a government to be elected on such a low vote. So it's very much open here, and I think we're going to win this. There's a lot of preferences from these minor parties, and I don't think Anthony Albanese is convinced a majority of the Australian people that he's got what it takes to be Prime Minister. I can feel the momentum. And can I just, while I've got you, Paul, say thanks to all our volunteers, all the volunteers for all parties out there tonight. I've been out there helping set up booze. I love it. It's wetter than a platypus's pocket out here in Rockhampton. So they're doing it tough tonight, but our grassroots game is good. We're going to win this, and we're going to keep socialism at bay, because that's what the Labor Party are all about. They're about putting on taxes, controlling your lives. That's not going to happen because I don't think Australian people are convinced in Anthony Albanese.
I promise you I will not allow any socialism in the Labor Party. That will.
So okay, let's
Good luck
deal
with that, Joe.
So let's deal with here that factor of preferences
and
right?
the primary. Yep.
So according to some polls, you're going to get there because the Greens are through the roof. Yep. Matt, you're going to get there because Freedom Party vote is assumed to be being underpolled. So I'm going to ask you about both of those factors in relation to the result that you want. So do you think the Greens are too hot in the polls right now, Joe?
In the published polls, ridiculous. I mean, I think I described the Resolve Political Monitor poll that the Herald came out with earlier this week as absolute garbage. Honestly, it is so ridiculous that one strategist genuinely thought, I think they've actually mixed up the ALP and LNP numbers, because if you swap them back around, it kind of starts to make sense. That doesn't explain the fact, though, that they're calling a 17% Greens vote in Queensland in the coalition stronghold, and then the same body of research comes out and says that Labor's narrowed the gap on managing the economy, that 2/3 of people want an increase in the minimum wage, and yet this is the same time that its primary vote has supposedly gone down to 28% in New South Wales. That is crazy.
It doesn't match. All right,
but just quickly on the primary stuff, though, there is a massive protest vote. This is a vote against the coalition, not for Labor. We know that. That's why its primary vote is a little bit soft. But if you look at UAP and One Nation, 30% at least usually of their votes came back to Labor. 30 to 40% came back to Labor at the last election when the whole electorate was swinging towards the coalition. I think with that sort of rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, with that anti-coalition theme to this election, I think 40 to 50 could go Labor's way.
But the reason I don't think that happens is because of the COVID stuff that happened this week. Prime Minister couldn't have been clearer. Albo's talking about maybe a new national plan. Matt, again, that Freedom Party vote, is it being undercooked or is it going to under-deliver tomorrow?
Look, I do feel on the booths I've been on that there is a significant vote for those minor parties. I think the difference from what Joe's saying, though, is that a lot of those voters are from the coalition. They're somewhat disheartened and understandably through COVID. I can understand that. But what they're not going to do, in my view, is preference the Labor Party and Anthony Albanese, because they've seen him up close over the past 6 weeks. Probably 6 months ago, they're thinking, oh, well, maybe we just have a change because we're so frustrated. But I think as they've seen Anthony Albanese, how scary he's been really captain risky through these last few weeks. He's just a total risk to this country because he doesn't know basic facts. He doesn't even know his own policy, and he runs away from the media when a modicum of pressure comes on. So how is this bloke going to stand up to the aggression we're seeing in the region? How's he going to stand up for our interests in the world stage? How is he going to stand up when the pressure comes on with inflation and stock market falls around the world? I think this huge question mark over Anthony Albanese is not going to deliver the kind of preference flows that Joe just went through. And I think Scott Morrison is going to pull off a second miracle tomorrow.
I think so too. All right, so Joe, just last question before we're done here. Either turn it into whatever you want, final point, or smoky mystery, something nobody's talking about, your last shot at the locker tonight.
I think NDIS is a massive one. I think that is the hip pocket stuff. NDIS, wages is another huge one. If people feel like they're going backwards, they're going to vote for the party who they think is going to put money back in their pocket, and they don't care if the leader of that party can't name a figure when he's asked to, or if he makes a few stumbles. They just don't care. Same with the NDIS. If they think they're at a risk of losing their allowance or a worker losing their job, that's 750,000 votes right there alone. And I think Albo is a safe pair of hands and a decent bloke, and this country needs it.
My view, if Labor wins, the campaign never mattered. If Labor doesn't, the campaign absolutely did. Matt, final thought, last shot in the locker, go for it.
The Labor Party is going to lose this election because they're proposing new taxes. They're proposing massive and billions of dollars in new spending, which will add to inflationary pressures. And that is the top of mind issue for people. Clearly, in the last 6 months, living costs is what is going to decide this election. And the Labor Party are taking a platform that's going to make it harder for you to balance your budget with higher taxes and extra government spending that will feed into inflation and higher prices.